My name is Andrew Malkovich, and I want to tell you a story that turned my life upside down. From early childhood, I was in love with classical music. Its harmonious sounds enchanted me, transported me to other worlds, gave me peace and inspiration. I was especially drawn to the piano. When I was 5 years old, my parents sent me to music school. From the first chords, I knew it was my calling. Every day after classes, I would run home and spend hours sitting at the instrument, learning scales, etudes, and sonatas. Teachers praised my talent and predicted a great future for me. I, too, felt that I was born for music. Nothing else brought such happiness and tranquility as playing the piano. After school, there was no question about choosing a profession. Of course, the conservatory. I applied to the best music school in the city and passed the entrance exams with flying colors. The years of study flew by like a moment. I absorbed knowledge, honed my technique, and performed at concerts. The teachers had high hopes for me, and I simply lived and breathed music. After graduation, I was invited to teach at the same conservatory. It was incredibly honorable to share my knowledge and experience with young talents. Now it was my turn to inspire students and help them unlock their potential. Music became the meaning of my life. I couldn't imagine myself without the piano, without those enchanting sounds. Every day I hurried to the conservatory, anticipating new discoveries and achievements. But at one wonderful moment, something unexpected burst into my well-ordered life, something that made me look at the world and myself in a new way. And that something was her. Her name was Alisha. We met by chance in a park near the conservatory. I loved walking there during breaks between classes, enjoying nature and silence. That day, I was sitting on a bench looking through the sheet music of a new sonata when a pleasant female voice sounded nearby. "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to Central Street?" I looked up and saw her. A sweet face framed by chestnut curls, radiant green eyes, and dimples on her cheeks. My heart skipped a beat. "Yes, of course. You need to go back to the main gate, then turn right and straight ahead for 2 blocks. I tried to hide the excitement in my voice. "Thank you so much. You've been a great help." She gave me a dazzling smile. "My name is Alisha." "Andrew, nice to meet you." I shook her warm hand. We started talking. It turned out that Alisha worked as a florist, loved houseplants, and dreamed of someday opening her own flower shop. I was struck by her openness and spontaneity. From that day on, we began to see each other often. We walked in the park, went to the movies, and talked about everything. I told Alisha about music, and she shared her dreams and plans. Gradually, I realized I was falling in love. Alisha was amazing, unlike any girl I had ever known. With her, I felt light and free. I could be myself. Our relationship wasn't even hindered by the fact that Alisha didn't share my passion for classical music. Of course, she listened to my playing, admired my technique, but it wasn't her thing. And I accepted that because the main thing was that we were together. After 6 months, I proposed to Alisha. My heart stopped as I waited for an answer, but she just smiled radiantly and whispered, "Yes." At that moment, I was the happiest man in the world. We started preparing for the wedding. We chose a date, sent out invitations, and thought through the details of the celebration. The day was approaching when I was supposed to meet Alisha's family. I was especially nervous about meeting her mother. "Don't worry, my mom will definitely love you," my fiancée reassured me. "She's kind and understanding, you'll see." If only I had known what this acquaintance would turn into. After all, it was from this that a new chapter of my life would begin, full of unexpected twists and trials. And so the day X came, dinner with Alisha's family. I carefully prepared, chose my best suit, and bought a bouquet of roses for my future mother-in-law. Inside, everything was trembling with excitement. Alisha met me at the doorstep of her house with a radiant smile. She looked stunning in a light blue dress. After kissing my fiancée, I stepped into the hallway. Jennifer, Alisha's mom, came to meet me. The first thing that caught my eye was her youthfulness. It was hard to believe that this slender, well-groomed woman was well over 50. "Andrew, meet my mom." Alisha hugged Jennifer by the shoulders. "It's very nice to meet you, Mrs." I faltered, not knowing her last name. "You can just call me Jennifer," she smiled, flashing her dazzling white teeth. "Welcome to our family." We went into the dining room. The table was already set, and there was a mind-blowing smell of homemade baked goods. The atmosphere was conducive to heartfelt conversations. At dinner, Jennifer asked me about my work, hobbies, and plans for the future. I enthusiastically told her about the conservatory, my students, and new projects. And then something unexpected happened. "Can you imagine, Andrew? I also used to study music," Jennifer exclaimed, sipping her wine. "I love the piano and still sometimes play for my own enjoyment." It took my breath away. Who would have thought that my future mother-in-law and I would have so much in common? Alisha just listened to our conversation, occasionally interjecting with comments. Jennifer and I discussed our favorite composers, shared stories from our musical lives, and argued about modern interpretations of the classics. I was amazed by her erudition and refined taste. At some point, our eyes met, and shivers ran down my spine. Something flickered in Jennifer's eyes, some hidden feeling, a response of a kindred spirit. I was embarrassed and hurried to look away. The evening flew by unnoticed. As we said goodbye, Jennifer warmly hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Come visit more often, Andrew. We'll make music together." All the way home, I replayed the events of the past day in my head. For some reason, I couldn't get Jennifer's image out of my mind. Her face was before my eyes. Could I be? No, nonsense. I was just too impressed with the new acquaintance. But deep in my soul, something new was already germinating, something strange and frightening, as if I had opened a door to an unknown world, full of forbidden desires. And that door beckoned, called me to follow. The following weeks turned into sweet agony. I continued to see Alisha, but my thoughts kept returning to Jennifer. Her image haunted me everywhere, in class, at home, in my dreams. Without realizing it, I began to look for reasons to see my future mother-in-law. I would stop by her house under the pretext of helping with her computer, or invite her to my students' concerts. And one day, plucking up my courage, I asked Jennifer out for coffee, just to chat and discuss new music releases. She didn't agree right away. At first, she shyly refused, saying it wasn't entirely appropriate, but I could see that she was pleased by my attention. And eventually, Jennifer gave in. We began to see each other more often, sometimes secretly, sometimes in Alisha's company. I constantly compared mother and daughter, and the comparison was not in my fiancée's favor. Jennifer seemed more refined, wiser, more attractive. Of course, I understood that I was playing with fire. I was torn between two women, betraying my beloved's trust. But I couldn't help myself. I was drawn to Jennifer like a magnet. Gradually, our conversations became more personal, more intimate. We talked not only about music, but also about life, dreams, and innermost desires. I felt that Jennifer was also drawn to me. One day, walking her home after a late concert, I couldn't resist and kissed Jennifer. At first she froze, but then she responded to the kiss. Her lips were so soft, so sweet, my head was spinning. "Andrew, we shouldn't... This is wrong," Jennifer whispered, pulling away. "I know, but I can't help myself. You've bewitched me," I breathed, looking into her shining eyes. From that evening we became amants de sûr, secret lovers. We met furtively when Alisha wasn't home. We made love passionately, selflessly, as if it were the last time. I understood that I was committing a vile act. Every time I kissed Alisha, I felt like the last scoundrel. I lied to her face, made up stories about being delayed at work. And all the while, I was drinking the forbidden nectar of passion. It was frightening to think what would happen if the truth came out. I didn't want to hurt Alisha, to destroy our love, but I couldn't give up Jennifer either. I was too deeply mired in this swamp of lies. Sometimes lying awake in the middle of the night, I would ask myself the same question. What should I do next? There was no answer. The wedding with Alisha was looming ahead, and the very thought of it made me uneasy. It was as if I was being torn in two, and both halves were bleeding. The apogee of our relationship with Jennifer came on one rainy autumn evening. Alisha had gone away for the weekend to visit a friend in a neighboring state, and we were left alone. We spent the whole evening at Jennifer's house, sipping wine and talking about music, books, and art. I savored every minute next to her, basking in the gentle light of her eyes. When the bottle was empty, Jennifer suggested playing four hands. She had wanted to try it for a long time but never dared. "I haven't sat down at the instrument for so long. What if I've forgotten everything?" she admitted, embarrassed. "Oh, come on, you can't forget something like that," I encouraged her. "Let's do it. It will be magical." We settled on the bench, our thighs touching. Being close to Jennifer made my head spin. My fingers habitually rested on the keys and a tender melody flowed. It was enchanting. We played as one, feeling the slightest nuances, anticipating each other's intentions. It seemed that the universe itself was accompanying our forbidden love. At some point, our fingers touched and a spark ran through my body. The music faded away. We froze, looking into each other's eyes, and then our lips met in a passionate kiss. I remember what followed in snatches, as if in a feverish delirium. Feverish caresses, clothes being torn off, scorching breath on the skin. We made love right there on the bench, forgetting everything in the world. It was the height of passion, a frenzied, all-consuming madness, sweeping away any barriers. Bodies intertwined in ecstasy, moans of pleasure filled the living room. Never before had I experienced anything like it. Afterward, we lay in each other's arms for a long time, catching our breath. Jennifer came to her senses first. Guilt and fear swam in her eyes. "God, what have we done?" she whispered. "Andrew, this must never happen again. Do you hear me? Never!" I silently nodded. Deep down, I understood that Jennifer was right. What had happened between us was a mistake, a momentary weakness for which we would have to pay. "We need to stop communicating, at least for a while until everything settles down," Jennifer said resolutely, getting dressed. "For Alicia's sake, she must never find out." I struggled to find the words. How do you explain to the woman you love that you suffocate without her? That I had dreamed of her, fantasized about her body since our very first meeting? But Jennifer was adamant. Promise me that this will never happen again." She squeezed my hands, looking into my eyes. "I promise." My voice faltered. We kissed goodbye, long, desperately, as if forever. And then I walked out into the night, feeling my heart being torn to pieces. Ahead lay the wedding with Alisha and a long path of atonement. The wedding day arrived on a sunny June morning. I stood at the altar in an impeccable black tuxedo, clutching a bouquet of pale pink peonies in my hands. My heart was pounding so hard that it seemed about to jump out of my chest. Alisha glided down the aisle in a cloud of white silk and lace. She was dazzling, like an angel descended from heaven. Looking at her face, radiant with happiness, I felt like the last scoundrel. How did she deserve such a husband? A liar? A cheater? A traitor? Unworthy of even catching a glimpse of this purity and innocence? I wanted to sink through the ground with shame. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Jennifer sitting in the front row. Perfect hair, elegant dress, subtle makeup, and eyes full of longing and regret. Our gazes met for only a moment, but that was enough to turn everything inside me upside down. The priest read the prayers, and I seemed to float in a fog. I mechanically repeated the words of the vow, putting the ring on Alicia's slender finger, and in my head only one thought pounded: what have I done? After the ceremony, there were congratulations, hugs, and a photo shoot. I smiled, accepted gifts, and made toasts. I played the role of the happy groom, but inside I was dying with every minute. At the wedding dinner, Jennifer and I carefully avoided each other. Even when we had to dance together, we kept a respectful distance. The touches were dry and businesslike, and there was no spark or hint of the former passion in our eyes. "Take care of my daughter, Andrew. She loves you so much," Jennifer whispered when the music faded. I swallowed the lump in my throat and silently nodded. My tongue couldn't bring itself to make promises I probably wouldn't be able to keep. The first wedding night passed without a spark. Alisha and I made love tenderly and reverently, afraid of hurting each other. But I involuntarily imagined Jennifer in her place and hated myself for it. Monotonous family life stretched on. Work, home, rare outings. Alisha and I almost never argued, but there was no longer the former spark in our relationship. She attributed my detachment to fatigue and stress, and I didn't dare tell the truth. Jennifer and I hardly saw each other. We only ran into each other a couple of times at family gatherings, hiding our eyes and exchanging obligatory pleasantries. Each such time was torture for me. I wanted to scream, to beg for forgiveness, to plead for one more chance, but I had to keep a straight face. Months passed. My longing for Jennifer did not subside, but only grew stronger day by day. I dreamed about her, recalled our meetings, and agonized over the impossibility of touching her. Alisha seemed like a pale shadow next to the flaming image of her mother. This can't go on any longer, I thought desperately at night. Something had to be decided. Would I be able to keep this excruciating secret all my life, or would it be better to confess everything and come what may? But I never found a definitive answer. Years passed. Alisha and I were still together, raising our son, going to work, and leading a quiet family life. From the outside, it seemed that we had a perfect marriage. But I knew it was just an appearance, a beautiful facade behind which emptiness was hidden. My love for Jennifer didn't go away. It just lurked somewhere deep in my heart. I forbade myself to think about her, to remember our short-lived romance, to dream about the impossible. But can you command feelings? Sometimes we would still meet. At our son's birthday, family holidays, joint dinners. I would look at the aged but still beautiful Jennifer, and my heart would clench with tenderness. And in her gaze, I read a reflection of my own longing. But we diligently kept our distance. We exchanged meaningless phrases and avoided being alone. The memories were too fresh, the risk of losing control was too great. And yet, some invisible thread still connected us, thin but strong, like a string. Once, when our son turned 10, Alisha fell seriously ill. The doctors made a grim diagnosis: brain cancer, inoperable. She had 6 months to live at most. This news was a terrible blow to me. The thought that I would soon lose my wife made a lump rise in my throat. Even though I could never love her the way I loved Jennifer, there was affection and tenderness between us. In the last months, I hardly left Alisha's bedside. I sat next to her around the clock, holding her hand, wiping away tears. I talked, recalled happy moments, and promised to take care of our son. And I thought only one thing: how cruel fate is, how unjust the world is arranged. One day, when I had no strength left, I went out to the hospital courtyard to get some air, and I ran into Jennifer. Aged, with a faded gaze, she sat sadly on a bench. "How are you doing?" she asked quietly, raising her eyes to me. And I couldn't stand it. Tears poured out in a stream, my shoulders shook. Jennifer silently hugged me, stroking my back. "I'm so sorry for her," I said through my sobs. "So many years of lying, pretending, torturing us both. And now, it's not your fault, sweetheart," Jennifer whispered. "We both made mistakes. But right now, we need to think about Alisha. She loves you so much. Stay with her until the end." Jennifer's words sobered me. I straightened up, wiped away my tears. She was right. We had to hold on for Alisha, for our son, and I'll get over my own pain. "Thank you for everything." I squeezed Jennifer's hand goodbye and went back to the room. Alisha was fading before my eyes. The day she was gone, it was as if the world had fallen apart. The grief was overwhelming, knocking the ground out from under my feet. I rushed around like a caged animal, unable to find a place. Only the care of my son, who needed me more than ever, kept me from madness. I had to go on living. For him, for the memory of Alisha, and so I did. Pulling the strain of single parenthood, working my ass off. Jennifer hardly ever showed up on the horizon. It was too hard to see each other, too much grief. Only occasionally we exchanged letters. Restrained, full of sadness and unspoken. Now, in my old age, I often think of our affair with Jennifer. I replay in my head those brief moments of happiness, those stolen kisses and confessions. I'm sad for the unfulfilled, for the way things could have turned out. But what's the use of regretting the past? I made my choice, even if it wasn't without mistakes. I've learned to live with guilt and loss. Life goes on, and you have to appreciate what you have. Jennifer and I have kept our secret to this day. Only the two of us know what it's like to love against all odds. Against age, against family ties, against reason. And even now, in the twilight of our days, when we rarely see each other, there's still a spark between us. A spark of forbidden feeling that has never died out over the years. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.